The Star. Um, this is a card that I didn't relate to as well as the rest of them for some time. Um, and yet now it's really starting to become one of my favorites. So we have some similarities in the Star, um, between the Star and the Hermit. The Hermit is retreating into himself, into earth, into water, into feeling and being, to kind of discover himself. But as I mentioned there, he's not only doing that purely and solely for himself, it's a requirement for self discovery and for self awareness in order to then take that outward and to share it, at least, if nothing else, nothing beyond his general environment, also with the society he lives in. So the hermit is a temporary thing. The star is kind of the opposite, using the same elements of feeling and being. The star generously gives freely of herself everywhere, everywhere and at all times, even during the light of day. When the stars are not visible to us, they're still there. They're still shining. They're still they're still shedding their light on all of us. It's just we may not see it. We may be blinded by it. So the star is kind of that generosity and purification. Often it's the keyword is hope, and that's fine. I don't use that keyword that often, but I don't have any disagreement with it. But it's also rejuvenation, and there's a kind of a washing in more traditional depictions. Again, it's a maiden with jugs, and water seems to be a theme of the day. Um, and pouring the jugs out in a similar way to temperance, and a discussion that often crops up in tarot circles is, what's the difference between temperance and the star? They're both pouring water. Why are there two cards that are pouring water? Where temperance is pouring water from one vessel to the other, as though there's a limited resource there. And that limited resource has to be measured and balanced and calculated. And that measuring and balancing, calculating, and that conscious taking stock of how much water do I have, how much fire do I have, and how do I mix them. That's the air element, that consciousness element. Whereas the star is much more free. She's nude, she's not clothed like the temperance figure is. And she's not measuring. She's not controlling how much water she pours out. She pours water into the stream, which is already plentiful with water. Then she's pouring water out also into the earth to nourish the earth. So we have water and earth, water and earth, water and earth. It's overall a very watery card. The dominance is in water. But it's pouring water into earth and pouring water into water. And there's a rejuvenation. It's like being washed over, that feeling of under the shower head. As water pours over you. Maybe you may even have a shower head that has holes poked in a octagonal format. There's usually more than 8 holes, but if you look at your shower head, maybe it has a multiple of 8 in it, like that, where it's kind of like a shower head. I didn't really think of that till now, but it's the idea that nourishment is washing over you. There's no limit. There's no need to control the amount. There's no need to measure or be stingent or control how much you receive and how much is given. It's endless. It can just wash completely over you, and through you and from you and into you, and all of those. And so there's a replenishment and a nourishment contained in that. And in a way, that is a logical extension from the tower. When the vessel breaks, now there's no limitations. Um, now the water, the nourishment can just flow in and out of you freely. There's no need for containment anymore. It's all available to you now. Uh, so, so that's the star. I don't know. I do want to talk a little bit about the eight pointed star. So some depictions of the star have seven pointed stars, use seven pointed stars to represent each of the planets, the traditional planets. Other depictions have an eight pointed star. Not exactly sure why it's an eight pointed star, but it is. So one of the things that I think of with the star is how we used to use stars to navigate. Even still, even in astronomy, we kind of use stars to navigate in the sense of understanding our place, our galaxy's place in the universe. And so sometimes a star, what appears to be a star in a photograph, is actually an entire galaxy. Again, that idea of limitlessness. But yeah, so the stars were used to navigate and still are. And so the star gives a sense of direction. And I kind of like that idea of direction associated with the star, especially when talking about 8 points, because we have the cardinal directions, north, south, east, west, and then we also have the ordinal directions, northeast, south, southeast, northwest, southwest. And so the star gives us our bearings. Um, in our ability to navigate through things. So there's on one side that feeling of limitlessness, never-ending possibility for nourishment, and then there's also guidance and navigation, and direction. Another little aspect that I more recently just suddenly got one day, finally understood one day, was that the chaos magic star is an eight-pointed star, with us at the center. Or it's yoked at the center, and presumably we're at the center. So the 8 principles of chaos magic, which I'm not going to go through now, but they're yoked, they're all connected at the center, and that we're at the center of that possibility where we can go in any of those 8 directions, or any combination of those 8 directions. There's also a directionality in terms of the dimensions. So if we think of it not as an 8-pointed flat star, but if we think of it as a star where I'm going to use pens here to kind of depict the shape, to show, so this shows width, this shows length, and then a 6th pointed star would show height and depth. And then the 8th direction, the 8th 2 points, the 7th and 8th point, then depict time, movement backward in time, movement forward in time. So it's omnidirectional, not just in terms of the cardinal and ordinal directions, but it's omnidirectional in terms of the dimensions of time and space. And so the chaos star kind of represents that as well. And our 8-pointed star, when it's depicted as an 8-pointed star, I think of that as well. So we're getting back again into possibilities. We're kind of circling around from the potential of possibilities in the beginning, in manifestation and the void, and we're moving back into the possibilities of multiplicity.